Look, it's lit. It's legit lit. Okay, because on top of having my special guest here on the CCU podcast, my special guest Grace gave me one of the best birthday gifts here. I don't know if y'all can see it because it's plugged up and I can't really take it far. Oh shit! But but I do have Tony Stark's arc reactor, and I do appreciate Grace for setting that up for me and getting that for me for the birthday. So let me actually bring Grace onto the screen. Boom. What's up, Grace? Grace, say what's up. Oh,
Hey everybody, don't break Iron Man's heart
oh
today.
no, 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 no. I'm just gonna set it up real
So excited
fast.
to be back. Can't wait to talk about what if. And
Yeah.
we gotta talk about Spider-Man. There's a whole bunch of news this week going on with the trailer, and we can't wait to get into all of that.
Awesome. And did you know that this was just like tap and it just like comes on and off like that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured it out via all of the comments or instructions.
Yeah, like I was confused. I was like, "Where is the on switch?" You know. No, but this is awesome. So again, I know I said thank you in person, but I just wanted to thank you live on this stream for making it more lit with Tony's arc reactor. So thank you.
You're welcome. Now you got like a nice little light in the background.
Yeah. Like
Yay!
eventually, like I told you before, like once I move, I'm gonna get a shelf, and this is gonna be like front and center, just so everybody can see it clearly in the background. But moving forward, today is gonna be a great day. I am super excited to talk about both topics that I have set up in the title. Today we are discussing the What If series, episodes 1 through 3, and we are going to be discussing the Spider Man No Way Home trailer. So, without further ado, Grace, tell me, what would you like to start with first? Being that, look at your shirt. I see. Can you show everybody your shirt? Boom.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, snap. I saw that in the background. What happened?
Oh, what happened?
It fell over. It fell over.
The shell like upright, so it kind of looks cool that way too.
Yeah, it kind of like flipped on it. It was like a superhero landing. So,
There it is.
there it
There it
is.
is. All right, guys. So as you guys already know, we got the new Spider-Man. It's supposed to be a teaser trailer, so we didn't get the whole trailer. That's still to come.
Wait.
Um,
Pause. That's only a teaser?
that was a teaser. Yes.
Oh, snap.
Yes. Just so you know, a lot of
Wait. Did I do this again? I did it again. I did it again. I.
we were muted.
You were muted.
Me?
You
Oh.
were. Oh, I'm shitty. I'm sorry. Oh, my goodness.
Give me
So.
back the arc reactor.
Yep, I gotta send it back. I gotta send it back, Grace. I am so sorry, but
That's
you were saying
completely
that you
fine.
were you were saying that the Spider-Man trailer, it's not a trailer, it's actually a teaser. And in actuality, when looking at it, uh, it's like a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes long. So I thought that was the official trailer, but you're saying otherwise.
No, yeah, it's labeled as a teaser. I'm guessing that they probably had something more of a traditional teaser trailer expected to release, like something closer to like like the 45-second minute mark. But because of the leak including so much of what we see in this teaser trailer, I think they kind of were forced to use that same amount of footage for the teaser.
Mm-hmm.
That's my suspicion. Because Marvel was kind of forced to have to release it this week with the leak going on over the weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we should be getting another like full trailer between now and when it comes out in December.
Really? Well, I feel like
Yeah.
I've already seen a lot, and that's just coming from that trailer in itself. Because yes, I'm just gonna jump right in as far as what I saw. Okay, we see where we left off from. No, it's not Homecoming. What is it? What was the last?
Far from home.
Far from Home. So we come back from where we left off to where Spidey is swinging around with MJ, and news is broken as far as who he is, how he is Peter Parker, right? And
Right.
I love that in the movie they actually brought back Jonah Jameson from the other that the actor from the other Spider-Man. So he
Yeah,
happened to
that was
be
a
in.
big hint that we were going to be
Yeah,
getting some type of multiverse thing going on,
right,
Spideyverse thing. So yeah, we knew that was a really really big like red flag for all
right,
of us who
right.
are familiar with just like Spider-Man storylines, the Spideyverse, Spider-Geddon. That's a
Yeah,
big thing. So it's
yeah.
really cool to see that they're finally like incorporating all the Sony films and kind of
Mm-hmm.
saying, oh yeah, this exists just in a different multiverse, but still within the MCU. So that's pretty freaking cool.
Right. So, I've done some research, and I won't even call it research. I've just been snooping online on the Instagram, and like, say at the top of this trailer, we see them swinging, and then we see Spider-Man in a precinct, right? And they're questioning him about the death of Mysterio. Okay, and there is a moment to where somebody slams files right on the table right in front of him, but we don't see a face. Now, there's speculation that that could very well be Matt Murdock. Now, if that were the case, people have been talking that they've been hoping to see kind of like a Daredevil cameo in some way, shape, or form in Spider-Man. So, with that rumor, I'm not going to say that is conclusive, but if that is so, then I'm already all in because I really enjoyed the Daredevil series that was on Netflix. Like at first, Daredevil left a bad taste in my mouth with Ben Affleck, and like like the movie in itself, that and Elektra,
Hmm.
it didn't really do it for me. It's not doing it how the MCU is doing it like to this day.
Oh,
You know what I'm
not
saying?
even close. Not even
So
close. Yeah.
so just the speculation of actually having Daredevil be in this, I'm appreciating in the fact that yes, we are already entering into the multiverse, but in actuality, um, the series it was almost in the same universe as the MCU. That's what it was initially was before Disney Plus came out to be. They even talked about some of the events that happen in Avengers and other movies and stuff like that. So if it were connected, I appreciate Kevin Feige for actually doing that.
Yeah, I think initially when they started doing like the Netflix TV shows, that was the intention, right? Because when you look at Agents of Shield, a lot of the events lined up with, the events in Captain America: The Winter Soldier,
Right.
and then leading into like Ultron with like basically Shield no longer really being an organization.
Yeah.
So that was the initial intent, and we expected all those characters to kind of come into the final battle scene, which ended up being, of course, Endgame, and that never happened.
You're right.
For obvious reasons, Disney spoke on it, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of cool now that there's been a lot of things going on like under the table. We're getting Fantastic Four, we're getting the mutants, and like now we're incorporating all the other like previous Sony like Spider-Man
Right.
films into what we consider the MCU. It is nice that I think Kevin Feige is like, you know what, let's not forget about the Netflix shows
Mm-hmm.
because some people are really 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 huge fans of them,
Yeah.
and let's kind of incorporate that fan base back into what we have, right? And I think with the multiverse happening, with the idea of variants and all these other things, it opens up the window to be like, okay, we can say, Daredevil is part of like this base
Right.
universe that we've been watching so
Right.
far, but this isn't, this isn't, this is.
Right.
It leaves
Because
a lot of room for anything to happen at this
say
point.
with
Yeah.
that, just to kind of piggyback off that, yes, like say like again, this is a rumor. This is nothing to be fact, right? But like, as much as I would like that to be fact, as far as him and his character, um, then that would already kind of already include what comes with that, which would be Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the Iron Fist. Now, I'm kind of going back to the Shang-Chi trailer, in which I feel like we're already getting maybe another Iron Fist with that. I don't think it's going to be related to what Netflix put out, but I'm kind of just throwing up a whole bunch of words right now. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, like, say
That's okay.
Daredevil comes with a lot. So yes, as much as happy as I would be if they brought him back, I know that would be a lot because he's associated with those other characters. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I think at this point, they've allowed themselves to be a little messy with the
right,
storyline, right? Because up to this point, everything's been woven together to a
yeah,
T. Even like the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., when that was initially meant to be part of like the main storyline with the
right,
MCU. So I think having done what they're doing now with the events of Loki and all the other
mm-hmm,
stuff, I think it gives them the freedom to say like, oh, I want to adapt Daredevil, but I don't want to like get him with all the baggage
right,
that it includes. Like I'd like to revamp certain like aspects of it. So
definitely,
I think at this point they've kind of gotten themselves out of like, I don't want to say the trap of like having to have everything
right,
kept like to a
mm-hmm,
T. But they've opened up a lot of possibilities at this
yeah,
point. So I mean, I think it's very likely we could see him with everything else this movie has going on. I don't really know how. Like, I think if it may be a cameo, like something as small as just a
mm-hmm,
cameo, to be like, okay, he's now in this like the MCU, we can do things with him
yes,
now, right? I think that's probably the extent of it because seeing that we have um Green
mm-hmm,
Goblin, we got Doc Ock, we got all these big characters coming into play. We still don't know really how that's gonna hash
yeah.
out. I feel like there's just not a lot of time to put too much story in him. But I think for sure, like a cameo is super, super
Yeah.
possible.
Okay. Well, kind of diving back into the trailer, so we see that he, I guess, is going through the worst of it because as much as people loved Spider-Man previously in the last two movies, as far as him having a fan base, now it's coming to the point to where he's getting all this hate. He's getting all of this kind of backlash at him being Spider-Man or whatnot. And now he's to the point to where insert Doctor Strange. He comes to Doctor Strange and sees if he can just erase everyone's memory of him being Spider-Man. Now, stop. I'm gonna stop right there just because I'm going back to the internet. Okay, because as of right now, with Doctor Strange, people have pointed out he in the trailer he doesn't seem as serious as he would normally be. Like, say, when it came down to changing the events of reality, either in Avengers or in the Doctor Strange movie, he was more
Mhm.
so to the point to where he's totally against that and just protecting everything. Where here in the trailer, he seems to be, oh, you need this? I gotcha. Yeah, we saved the universe. You need me to change that? Boom, I got it. I'll just take care of that and just
Yeah.
not even paying attention to what Wong is talking about, right? So,
Mhm.
as far as what the internet is saying is, if anything, I'm like I hate to say this, but they're bringing Mephisto
Say
back
it.
in here, okay? And
Oh, I gotta laugh
they
say.
just
I gotta
want to
laugh say. Go
put
on. Finish your
Mephisto
point. Finish
into
your
the
point.
MCU. You know what I'm saying?
This is okay. Honestly, when it comes to Mephisto, I feel like they just keep wanting to blue ball us. Like, I don't think they're actually gonna put him on. I just feel like they keep trying to like reopen wounds from WandaVision. Like that's kind of how it feels like to
Mm-hmm.
me. Because I'm assuming you're referring to the theory that either Mephisto is somehow not necessarily controlling but influencing Doctor Strange's decisions, or that he's a variant or not even Doctor Strange at
Right.
all. Because I've seen a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different guesses on that. And I think the biggest what the foundation for those theories is that Doctor Strange is like, kind of like, oh, you want to see how this plays out? Let's do
Right.
it. Let's
Right.
just see how and I think from the events of Infinity War, where he's very like, oh, if it comes to letting you or the void
Right.
die, like to defend the time stone, I'm gonna let it
Mm-hmm.
happen, with that seriousness of those events. So I kind of want to dispute that a little bit because if you look at Doctor
Mm-hmm.
Strange, the first one, well, the only one we've seen
Yep.
so far, right? Because we don't get the what multiverse of madness for a
Right.
while, but in Doctor Strange, I mean, the movie starts off with him like in the surgery room tapping his foot away, shaking like this, and like with music and all these things. Like he's a goofy
Right,
guy. I
right,
mean, the entire movie that he's like learning at the secret sanctum or whatever, he's trying to get Wong to like crack up in jokes. He keeps like calling him like Beyonce and like all these things. Like he's a goofy
right.
guy. Like honestly, this kind of ties well. It makes sense to me. I mean, this is the same guy who was starting to do the I guess like dark magic unknowingly, and like he's not exactly by the book, right? Like he secretly went into the library to take out books that he was technically not supposed to be grabbing at that time, and so he's not exactly to the T by the book. I think with having Infinity Stone be like the freshest version of, or like view of Doctor Strange that we've
Mm-hmm.
had, I think it's easy for a lot of people to kind of make that segue of like, oh, this doesn't really feel like him. But if you watch Doctor Strange, it kind of does. It kind of does. And especially with like WandaVision having come out, the events of Loki, I think the internet has been posting a lot of things or like memes of like Doctor Strange just kind of losing his hair out of like all the things he has to
Mm-hmm.
fix. And now when you look at like a lot of memes, it's kind of like the reverse. Like he's one of the reasons this thing is all broken. And I kind of think it tracks because he's not like the Sorcerer Supreme that was the Sorcerer Supreme when he was
Right,
first like kind of
right.
indoctrinated into the mystic arts.
Mm-hmm.
So in my eyes it kind of tracks when you look at Doctor Strange, but obviously the most latest version of him that we kind of feel or remember is him in the events of Infinity
Right.
War, in which case I would be like, yeah, I agree with that. But if you look at Doctor Strange, I feel like it kind of cuts out that idea that, oh, it's probably maybe it's not him or it's someone else influencing
Okay.
him.
Okay. Well, again, this is something that was thrown out into the world, into to the online streaming world, and I took that, and with Mephisto, I don't really know too much about him from the comics, but all I'm seeing as a trend since WandaVision is people trying to throw Mephisto into our face, like as if
Everywhere,
he's
yeah.
just like the new big bad. Where to me, the only big bad that I feel like anybody should be worrying about is either Kang
King.
or Wanda. To me,
Hmm.
just because we don't know where Wanda's going with this dark magic. So,
Right,
all in all,
right.
from what I see, those are the only two that I feel could be big bads. But
Uh-huh.
people again just keep throwing Mephisto right into my face. So,
And because it's literally in the film. I mean, in the teaser trailer, you see there's like a picture of Peter with like a devil like drawn on him, and it says like the devil in
mm-hmm,
disguise. Later on, when he sees like this figurine that reminds him of Doctor Strange, and then that's kind of how he's like, okay, well, I'm having this problem. Who can fix it? Maybe Doctor
mm-hmm,
Strange. That figure, if you look at it, also looks like Mephisto. Like it doesn't just look like Doctor
yeah,
Strange. So there's definitely a lot of like things plastered to allude to Mephisto even
mm-hmm,
now. But I feel like if they didn't bring him in to WandaVision, I don't really see him coming in at this
yeah,
point, unless later down the road it shows up to be kind of like a Thanos scenario where it's like, oh, this is the guy who is pulling the strings all
yeah.
along. And I don't know. I'm not fully invested in the idea that he's come. When WandaVision was out, I'm like Mephisto, 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 because the like the the Scarlet Witch and the Vision like comic series
Mm-hmm.
like from 1960, 1970, something like that, is a series that one of the first that I collected
Mm-hmm.
myself. So I was pretty invested in WandaVision in its entirety, and so like all along I was like Mephisto. And then when like none of it came to fruition, I'm like, well, you were just leading me on, weren't you? Because they knew what they were
Right.
doing. Um, so I don't think he's gonna play a big role. I still think like the main thing is Kang and the idea of like the
Mm-hmm.
multiverse. Kind of going back to the trailer, been a lot of themes that we knew were going to be surrounding this
Yeah.
film, but up till now we didn't really have too much of an idea of how they were going to weave together. So obviously the repercussions of people now knowing who Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
is, that's one of them. We knew Doctor Strange was going to be play a pretty big role, and we knew the multiverse was going to be like the setting for a lot of this,
Yeah.
right? The trailer kind of showed us how all of this is weaving together. You were talking about in the beginning how, right, Peter is unhappy with essentially what's going on now that people know who he
Mm-hmm.
is. Doctor Strange is the solution. Doctor Strange is kind of just as like experimental as he is, and it's like, yeah, F you, Wong. Let's go ahead and do
Right.
this spell. something goes wrong, and now we're getting a whole bunch of big bads from different multiverses of other
Yep.
Spider-Men coming into play. And then of course we get some really, really dope, like nice little like just like flash scenes of a bunch. Like we get the Green
Wait,
Goblin.
pause. Can I stop you right there?
Go
Just
ahead.
because there was a
Yeah.
brief moment before we saw that. Um, say this is when Doctor Strange is doing the spell, right? And I didn't notice this
Yeah.
when I first watched this, but when everything went wrong in the spell, and let's say the building exploded, say Yadira, she actually saw this and I didn't. As far as the little space out that was beyond the building, and she was like, "Oh, that's from that's the area from Loki. Like that's the place where where the timeline is." She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's the timeline." I was like, "How did you see
Wait,
that?"
wait. Are you saying that she saw the timeline? Is that what
Yeah,
you
she was
were
saying
saying?
like that's the area as far as where the timeline is, and I didn't notice that at
Oh,
first. Yeah,
Yadira with
she
the
caught it.
cave. See, in that same scene that you're talking about, like the big, it felt so familiar, and I feel like the immediate things that came to mind was like in Ragnarok when like they end up on what's that like planet
Uh huh.
Sakaar, right? Like they go through these like little like you see just a whole bunch of like colors and like things swishing around. I thought of, oh okay, I've seen this in Ragnarok. And then another piece of that you can kind of tie in with things you've seen in Doctor
Mhm.
Strange. But I think also maybe the reason I thought it was like, oh, this is so familiar because it's from Loki, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good
Yeah.
find.
All right.
That was pretty good.
But yeah, go ahead, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to put in that little tidbit. But tell me, you were at Green Goblin and Doc Ock.
Yeah, so the trailer basically finishes up with a nice, a bunch of little cutscenes of the main like big bads that we're going to be seeing, right? So we have, hold on, I got the list here. Oh, okay. So these are the people who are confirmed and casted, right? So we have William Defoe as Green
Mm-hmm.
Goblin, Norman Osborn coming back. I think the last time we saw him was in like 2004. I mean, no, like 2002. I think that's when the first Spider-Man came around. So almost 20
Yeah,
years
that's
after
crazy.
initially going into the
Mm-hmm.
role. We're gonna get, let's see, Jamie Foxx coming back as
Mm-hmm.
Electro, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, and then there were little snippets in the trailer where you can say, that you could see the lizard and you can see like Sandman or something. Am I blind? I couldn't see it. I feel like they are going to be in the film because it's been talked about a lot, but I didn't see
Like
those snippets in the trailer
I saw
myself.
sand just swooshing around, so I'm just going to assume that Sandman. The only questionable thing that I feel that like say with not Jamie Foxx,
Flux?
Jamie Foxx, right? When him playing Electro, in the Amazing Spider-Man, he was blue and giving off blue lightning, and in this trailer, I feel like we saw yellow lightning. So I don't know.
We
I don't
did.
know if we're gonna
There's
go to
yeah.
the actual comic book version of Electro to where he is green and yellow. I believe that was his costume. And
I think that's what they're trying to
yeah,
do. I think that's what they're
yeah,
trying to do. Like, is it going to go as far as like, oh, they're going to change how he looks at like completely, or maybe are they just going to be like, oh, the electric things that he kind of like flows out are now yellow, but
right,
he's still blue? I don't
right,
know, but that's what it seems like they're setting
yeah.
up. That's what it seems like.
So
Hmm.
far, with quote unquote, I'm gonna call it the Sinister Five because we don't have a confirmed six. So say
No.
right now with the Sinister Five, the only thing that is missing from this teaser, now that I know is a teaser, is or are the other two Spider-Man. Yes, no, maybe so.
Oh, are we gonna get in there? Are we gonna go there
Listen,
yet?
we,
Oh,
we
we're
we
gonna
have a
go
few
there.
minutes. Let's just go ahead. We know it's happened. You were waiting for it. You were
Man,
praying for it. You were
I'm
just
sweating.
hoping this day would come.
Okay, listen. All right, we're gonna dive in there. Okay, so and honestly, and you guys know as well because I've said it. I think in almost every single
Definitely.
episode we've had so
Yep.
far,
So
at least
far.
like a little tidbit
Yep.
of it. Um, it's going to happen. We're going to see the three Spider-Men come
Mm-hmm.
together, and this is just most of this is based on like subjective feelings, but that's enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if you wish something like hard enough in this world, it's just going to happen. Anyways, with when it comes to the Spideyverse and seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, when you're making a
Mm-hmm.
movie where the multiverse is now a concrete thing, and you're already bringing in the villains from other Spider-Man
Yep.
films. How do you not bring in the
I'm
Spider-Man?
sorry.
Like,
Tom Holland Spider-Man can't take all 6 of them or all 5 of them. I'm gonna just throw it. He's awesome. He's great. But guess what? He's not doing fighting every single one of them by himself. There has to be a team.
that's honestly, yeah, realistically, right? Realistically. And I mean, yeah, let's give our boy Tom Holland a little bit of love, because on that final like cut right before the teaser trailer ends, we do see him in the Infinity War Iron
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Spider suit, which gives him 4 additional limbs,
Yeah.
right? At least the equivalent of, in total he'll have like 8 limbs. So he's at least matched up with like Doc Ock, you know.
If
So
he
he's
does,
got a
if
chance.
he,
But
yes, I can see Doc Ock against him solo, and then he'll go like into the red eye where he's like execute kill mode or something like that, you know, and then it's like
yes.
Iron Spider with his arms versus Doc Ock and his arms, you know,
Oh,
that would
if
be kind
that's
of
not
cool.
a scene, if that's not a scene in the
Yeah.
movie, oh, they failed. But anyways, so going back to it, how can you have the villains from other Spider-Man
Mhm.
films and not bring in the actual
Right.
Spider-Man into play?
Mhm.
That would just be such a huge oversight on Marvel's part. So
Yep.
huge, especially when you look at the fact that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were supposed to have another movie in their franchise,
Were they
right? There was
really?
supposed to be a Spider-Man 4. There was supposed to be a Spider-Man 3 for Andrew Garfield. This was supposed to be the case, but the reason they didn't fly, a big part was because these actors were just getting a little too old to play the role, right?
Getting.
So logistically, it just didn't.
Tobey Maguire was already kind of old, low key. Spider-Man 1, I was like, you looking kind of grown, my man.
Oh, he started too old for the film. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a thirst within the actors to reprise the
Yeah.
role. I don't know if Tobey Maguire like publicly denounced that he's being in the film. I know Andrew Garfield has been on multiple interviews saying it's not going to
Mhm.
happen. I never got the call, and like specifically, and I feel like he said this to me directly, and it kind of hurt. And I'm like, why are you saying this to me? He said, I recommend that you chill, to just like the general fan base that wants this to happen, because he's saying it's just not. But I've never been convinced more, because they wouldn't say it's happening, right?
Of
It's
the
like
3
they
Spider-Man,
won't say it
of
anyway.
the 3 Spider-Man, I feel like Tom Holland has done the most leakage when it comes down to the MCU, you know. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
the other 2, I feel like they're like people are gonna pry on them just to see if they're gonna leak, and if what was the actor's name you just said? Not Toby, but what's the other one? Andrew Garfield.
Andrew
Like if
Garfield,
he was
yeah.
just on some
Yeah.
like chill, then I'm sure it's just like he's been hearing it a lot, and he doesn't want to spoil it, but at the same time, he may just want to be like, yo, like, can y'all just please, like,
It's I don't care that they're saying it's not going to happen, because I wouldn't expect them to say
right,
anything
right,
otherwise. When you do look at some of the interviews that Tom Holland were in, you can just tell how uncomfortable he is when they ask him anything that refers or alludes to like the Spideyverse and getting all the Spider-Man together. I just like I have a couple of little notes that I got from one of the interviews that he was in, because I thought it was kind of funny. Let's see. Well, of course, like one of the big things he said is the most ambitious standalone superhero movie ever made is going to be this
Mm-hmm.
one. How can you make such a statement if it's not something this
right,
grandeur, especially knowing that the fan base wants this to happen,
mm-hmm.
and then you're still hyping up the movie? Like, I'm just saying, if I was Marvel and I made the mistake of like, shit, like, why didn't we bring in the
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man? I'd be trying to be like, hey guys, it's not gonna happen, like, but like a little bit more like official notice. Like, I just don't want you guys to be disappointed and hyped up and ready
Right.
for it. I just feel like the approach would be different. They wouldn't be so like hyping it up in the way that they are. And then there was another thing where there was an interview with Tom Holland, and the interviewer asked him about an Instagram post that he made referring to like, oh, this is something along the lines of, today is like by far the best day of my
Mm-hmm.
career. You guys are going to know as soon as you see the film, type of thing. And so I'm just like, this is like, it doesn't add up. If they don't do it, I have so many questions. Like it just doesn't make sense for them
It
not to.
doesn't.
The only way, yeah, and the only way that I would accept them not being into this
Mm-hmm.
film would be if they're planning to make a whole nother trilogy that are all surrounding the Spideyverse
Yeah.
and building up something close to Spider-Geddon or the actual like Spideyverse comics where they're kind of like fighting some type of like, you know, spider sucking vampire
Right.
type beings.
Right.
Like, okay, I'll buy that. But they just can't not be involved at all, especially when you see all these villains coming in play. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Um. One last thing before we change gears and talk about What If, because I have a lot to talk about with What If. The last little thing I got from this trailer, okay? This is more so going to be another one of my fan theories, okay? A chill theory, okay? In the trailer we saw Spider-Man running in what looked to be like a high school in a black suit, okay? Now, I have no idea what this black suit does, but he's in the suit. His mask is off, so he's running around and people see him. Now, as far as what this theory comes out to be, okay, this may be saying a lot, but every movie, I mean not every movie, but every universe, every Spidey universe has a different feel. And by different feel I mean has a different look. It has they all have different contrasts to the point to where they're shot a different way. And there was a moment to where in this scene to where he's running in his black suit, it looked almost reminiscent of the feel of Amazing Spider-Man. Now, as far as this suit, I've seen pictures online as far as this may be a mystical black suit that may be hooked up by Doctor Strange to where, if anything, could possibly be a way to travel through universes or whatnot. So, my theory is he somehow is going to form this spider team by traveling to different Spidey universes to grab Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I know it may be a little far fetched, but just from what I saw, I feel like that's what it is.
See, I think that's a pretty like fair hypothesis because they're going to go one of two ways, right? Either the Spider-Men are going to find Tom Holland
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man to help out, like, hey, yo, I noticed my villains were missing from my timeline, so I'm just going to check here to see if they're here, and or the inverse, which is your point of like maybe somehow Doctor Strange was able to like manifest this suit that
Right.
allowed him to go to different multiverses, and then from there you can kind of pick up the different
Right.
Spider-Man. That does actually link up with how some of the events in Spider-Verse uh pop up once they like some of the spider variants, if you
Yeah.
will, just to kind of use the term that's being thrown
Use
around
it.
right now in the MCU.
That's the word today.
They once they that's the word of the day. They once they recognize what the threat is and what's going on, they start to kind of like cultivate and like try to gather and pick up different spider people from different
Mm-hmm.
multiverses to obviously like regroup, strategize, and then initiate their plan of
Right.
attack against this big force, right? So I feel like that would be a fair assumption to say that kind of storyline is gonna could be transferred into here. So yeah, I'm
That's the
for
only
it.
reason why,
I'm for
like,
it.
say, like, the only reason why I have I feel this way is not only with the black suit, but it's like he's running around and the people that are looking at him in this scene, it's almost like, I think this may be saying a lot, but I feel like they don't recognize him. So he may be in a place to where they don't know this Peter Parker, and this is just some random guy in a black suit running around in their school. But all in all, this is just a theory of mine. And if anything, I'm throwing that out, boom, into the universe. Mic drop.
Throw it out. Throw it out. That's exciting. Something else that I'm curious before we transition into what if,
Mm-hmm.
because I know we have a lot to talk about there as well. Something I'm curious to find out, and I hope this film kind of dives into, is how much Doctor Strange is aware of, because he talks about the
Mm-hmm.
multiverse. He talks about how there's very little that they actually know
Right.
about the multiverse. But being that he's the Sorcerer Supreme and is aware of a lot of different entities and threats that to their,
Mm-hmm.
reality, does he know about Kang, or previous to Kang, right? His predecessor being what's his name? What did they refer to the Kang variant
He,
before he was killed by He
yeah,
Who
he who
Remains?
remains, yeah.
Is
I
that
believe so.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I wrote it down. Yeah, let's just say that's what it is. You guys will correct. But like is he aware of them, right? And now that right from the events of Loki, is he aware of this big shift? Where is this taking place in terms of those events? Because we know this is all, synergistic to some extent. So I'm hoping that the film dives into that a
I
little
feel
bit,
like
which I'm sure it will,
I
because,
feel like you're not far off. Simply for the fact that in Infinity War, when he was looking at the 14 million possibilities, right?
mm,
I feel like that can coincide to where, if anything, he's looking at 14 different branches of the sacred timeline going in 14 million different directions, you know? So,
right.
with that, the time stone could probably maybe allow him to yes, see those, but he who knows to where he actually has an idea of the multiverse, if he knows if a there is one, because at the point where he's viewing all of these different realities, so far it's only been one. It was a universe before the events of Loki, so there was no
right.
multiverse before then. But I believe you're on track to wonder if he knows, if there's anything
Yeah.
that the Sorcerer Supreme should know in any books as far as the history of time,
The handbook.
and yeah, the Sorcerer Supreme handbook, and the chapter on the timeline. You know what I'm saying? So
And we do have like the previous Sorcerer Supreme when we see her in Endgame and she's talking to Bruce Banner. She tells him, this is what you perceive to be the flow of
right,
time, and she kind of gives him a scenario in which if
if something
in
happens, it
that
branches
case they were
off.
talking about like the stone, not it
Right.
branches off.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're aware of at least the entity of the
Mm-hmm.
TVA. Do they know as much to the extent of like behind the TVA is or was He Who Remains? So I'm kind of intrigued to find out what, especially because Multiverse of Madness is just around the
Right.
corner as
Right.
well. I mean, this all has to play in some
Definitely.
way. So there's so much happening in this movie that they may not address it directly, or maybe it's going to be an end credit, something to that effect.
What are
But
your
I'm excited.
What are your
Go
thoughts
ahead.
on this is a little off track. I'm sorry, but like, what are
That's
your
okay.
thoughts on at the end of the episode of the finale of WandaVision, and she is floating and hears her kids. People are speculating that she's seeing her kids in a different universe. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I think that's not too far off of what actually is going to happen. The thing is, like in the comics, what happens with her? Obviously, she goes
Mm-hmm.
insane. She like has her kids. They're taken from her because in reality they were, I guess, pieces of Mephisto, and that's how Mephisto kind of flows into
Yeah.
their her storyline. Down the road in her comics, she basically kills off like half, if not more, of the mutants,
Really?
and then creates her own reality where her kids do exist, which is kind of what we ended up seeing in WandaVision, but in a
Right.
different way,
Right.
right? And so it's who knows what it's going to be, but I think it's going to have to be like her kids from a different timeline, a different
Mm-hmm.
multiverse, because that kind of seems to be the theme of what this stage is all
Yeah.
about. So I think that's probably the closest thing we can kind of come up to a conclusion at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Maybe we'll get more of an idea after watching Spider-Man, or even after Shang-Chi, that's coming out
Yep.
next week. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Too
Exciting stuff.
excited.
You ready to dive into
Oh,
what
definitely.
if?
Let's do it.
All
What
right,
if?
let's
Let's
do
start. Let's start at
it.
the beginning. Episode 1. Okay. So episode 1, we see Captain Carter, Captain Peggy Carter, and this story is of her taking place in the machine instead of Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers actually gets shot in the lab, so he doesn't become Captain America, and she becomes Captain Carter. Oh,
Britain.
Captain
Yeah,
Britain.
well, yeah, Captain.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this episode, I feel like, was a great intro as far as this What If series. Okay, because yes, I saw the commercial, and they broke down in the commercials like what if it went a different way, and in it they basically put a 2 hour long movie into 30 minutes, okay? And it kind of
Yes.
shed off some of the things that we didn't really need to see because we've already seen it. She's already going on, I'm guessing, on the same similar adventures as Captain America, but now she's Captain America or Captain Britain, you know? So I like the idea of where they went, and I feel like it was executed really well. So I was super happy with this first episode. What do you think?
I agree, and I think I got the same feeling, and I the same appreciation is that within whatever like 25 30 minutes of this episode, they basically condensed the plot and storylines and main events of Captain America, the first
Mm-hmm.
Avenger,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we see a lot of like the same big events that we see in his storyline, very much so in hers, but obviously changed a little bit, right?
Definitely.
So the when they're trying to go on the train to get the Tesseract, but then instead of Bucky being the one that gets lost, it's
Yep.
Steve when she's in the bar and she's like, I can't get drunk. We know that's also like
Right.
a reference to when
Steve was at the bar.
Cap's
Mm-hmm.
mourning Bucky and he's like, I can't get
Yep.
drunk. Yeah. So I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really nice introduction where we can see the very like distinct and very like parallels within their
Mm-hmm.
storylines, and I think it's probably the closest one you could look at when you compare it to the other two. The other two definitely have that same kind of a feel where they travel within like the realm of what the main movie or main idea that we have, but tweaked. But I think this one was the one that most closely did it, and I thought it was really well done. I really
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that as I was watching this episode, um, Red Skull, I was actually hoping to see a little bit more, but he was taken out by the creature that was coming out of the portal. And I'm not
Mhm.
familiar with this creature, but they say that this creature was maybe big in the comics. Do you know anything of it?
See, I don't know too much in terms of like if he's meant to be like a direct creature from the comics. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I will say that what I felt, because there was like, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I watched this like 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, but it was like some tentacle-like
Right.
creature,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Something like that. So the first thing I thought of was actually, and I might be far off, but I thought of Goose from Captain Marvel, the cat, because he's actually because
Right.
he's a
Mm-hmm.
cat
Yeah.
exteriorly, but he's actually like a pretty like
Gnarly.
crazy, pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to get the name of what
I
he is.
forgot what it was,
Hold
but
on, I'm gonna see
yeah.
if I can pull
But
it out. Yeah, I'm gonna see if
the
I can pull it
scrolls
up
were
while we're
scared of him.
talking.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and when he swallows the Tesseract, right? So there's like another
Right.
connection to this because obviously this first episode is surrounding the Tesseract as
Mm-hmm.
well. You see that like the internal part of him is like this tentacle-like creature with a whole bunch of like
Yeah.
and within his stomach lives a bunch of different like I don't know if it's defined as like not multiverses but different like I don't know like he's a very
Like
like interesting
say
type of
his
creature.
stomach's
Oh,
like another
he's a
dimension or something
Flurkin.
like that.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. But yeah, so he's a
Yeah.
Flurkin. So I was wondering, I'm like, is this a Flurkin? And maybe because his stomach is like different
Mm-hmm.
dimensions, maybe there's still some way that Red Skull ends up taking the role that he took in, Infinity War, where you see him at what is it?
Morak?
Where is he at? No, not Morak. Wherever like the Soul Stone was, right?
Wait, that's not
So
Morak?
that's kind of the
No, Morag is where the
no.
purple stone is. Um,
Yes. It was
uh,
not Vormir,
it is
right?
Vormir. Yep, you got it.
Is it
Yep.
Vormir? Yeah, Vormir. Vormir. So I was kind of thinking that might still be a way that he ends up on
Mm-hmm.
Vormir. If that was kind of just what my mind like traveled to.
Okay. But
Yeah.
say, where did the Tesseract end in that episode? Like, yeah, I'm with you. I saw it 2 weeks ago because it was a Tesseract that transported him to Vormir in Captain America, I believe. Am I right or wrong in that?
No, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah.
So I don't believe I remember seeing him holding the Tesseract in this first episode of What If to take him to Vormir to be the Watcher of the Soul Stone. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't
Yeah,
happen on
yeah,
this
yeah.
one. That didn't happen on this one. So that's why I was wondering. I'm like, maybe because like the stomach of a Sorkan is like held with different pockets of
Mm-hmm.
dimensions or something like that. I was like, maybe that's somehow a way that he still ends up on Boromir, but it's kind of far
Yeah,
fetched. But still, like I was just kind of thinking that may be something along the lines, or just a fun
yeah.
idea, because I don't know if there's going to be future like episodes that add along to what we
Mm-hmm.
saw. You know what I mean? So I guess we can kind of make up what we want to add
Oh,
in like
I'm
the
not I'm
or to
not mad
fill
at that
in.
because say as far as what we've seen uh in these episodes along with what we've seen in the trailer, the trailer has shown us a clip of, let's say, Avengers from the first Avengers movie, and they're doing the circle around. And you're seeing all the Avengers get ready to fight the Chitauri in New York. But in the trailer, it switches to like a circle of a whole different team of different people. So,
Hmm.
what I'm really just assuming is that yes, what if they are separate stories and they're changing the stories of what we know, but at the end I feel like maybe the finale of the season is going to be almost like an Avengers level event to where they all come together. Say the characters that we know so far in these first three
Yeah.
episodes, they all come together and form a new type of Avengers because we have Captain Carter and or before we even go further, do you want to go straight into episode 2?
Sure, let's do it. Let's do
Okay,
it.
because episode 2 we had the voice.
It's my favorite.
We
Yeah.
had the voice. He was there. He recorded it, and I was actually happy to hear it. Like it wasn't like an actor trying to mimic. You know, it was actually
Yeah.
him, Chadwick Boseman, who recorded it. And for those who are unaware, which I'm sure anybody watching this they are aware, this What If series was supposed to come out last year. So this, I'm sure, was recorded maybe even 2 years ago. So with that, of course, he was still live when recording the audio for it, just so they can put it all together. And I was really just happy to hear his voice.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I think he's one of like the characters or voices that you're gonna hear like the most of the series. I think he's gonna be in a total of four
Mm-hmm.
episodes. When you look at IMDb, the majority of everyone else is either 1 to 2 episodes max. So it's nice that the last project we're getting him in, we're kind of getting a lot
Yeah.
of him, and so I think that's a really great way to tribute because it was a big loss for
Yeah.
everybody, you know.
So I want to talk about Thanos. And he came off super soft. And it was because of Star Lord T'Challa or T'Challa Star Lord just somehow changing his view from decimating half of the universe. You know what I'm saying? So
This is so
he
funny. This
came
is
out
so
soft. I'm
funny.
sorry. I like the Thanos that we knew. You know what I'm saying? So I was kind of
Yeah.
hoping to see that again, and if anything, if there was an Avengers level event, it would be these new Avengers going up against Thanos again. But what if Thanos changed his mind? What if Thanos is
Yeah.
now a good guy? You know what I'm saying? So
I find it so funny that this episode is such a diss to like Peter Quill's
right,
Star Lord. It kept making me think of this episode of The Fairly Odd Parents. I don't know if you guys have seen The Fairly Odd Parents. Yes, it's been a long
right,
time. But there's this episode where like Timmy like gets to see what everyone's life would be like without
right.
him, and I think he's expecting everyone to be like mourning and sad, but literally everyone's life is so much
Yeah,
better, and that's kind of what we're seeing with this. And then at the end when we see Peter Quill working at a Dairy
right, right.
Queen, oh, it's literally just like the last slap in the face for him, and I think it's hilarious. Like I think it's meant to be this outlandish that this one little change, like either Peter Quill was so bad or T'Challa's just that awesome that he could get the Mad Titan to revert from his like genocidal ideas or
Well, I
plans
think
to save the
I think with
world.
Peter
Yeah.
Quill, we already know him to be out of touch, right? And
Mhm.
with that being said, this may be stupid to say, but like say with it, he was thinking Footloose was the greatest movie of all time. You know what I'm saying? And that was a joke in itself because even when it came out, I'm sure it wasn't, but Peter Quill made it seem out to be to where it was,
Oh,
you know. So yeah, as far as him becoming Star Lord, yeah, he may not have
that on
been
that
the
note,
best person if they went to um, Wakanda and took T'Challa instead. I'm not mad at that.
yeah. On that note, you were mentioning like how Peter Quill's like just ideas and like feelings and views are just kind of skewed, and how you used Footloose as one of the
Greatest movies of all time.
examples. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you see him interacting with Peter Parker, right, Spider-Man in Infinity War, and he's like, "Oh, is Footloose still the greatest, one of the greatest movies of all time?" And then he's like, "It never was,
Right.
man." And it's just he's just so sad.
Yep.
It's insane. I thought the whole idea and the whole concept was so funny. And this is probably my favorite one. I love Guardians of the
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy. Gamora is like my favorite thing in the world. I love Peter Quill, and so I think this is the one that I felt I had like the most fun
Yeah.
watching.
Speaking of,
And just
I was
so
gonna say, speaking of
go ahead.
Guardians, just the opening when the I forgot his name, but he's in Captain Marvel as well, the black guy who's actually Kree, and then he's there to take
Korath,
Star Lord, but then he sees Star Lord right here, and he's like, "Oh wait,
fangirling.
you're Star Lord?" Like I busted out laughing.
So that honestly that was like the icing of the cake. So you're referring to Korra. That's the character
Right.
you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. That was so funny. And when you compare it to like what you see in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, "Who the hell are you?" He's like, "Star
Right.
Lord, man." And like I feel like you initially expect something of that kind of interaction to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think T'Challa's character, he kind of voices our feelings of like, well, that didn't turn out the way we were
Right.
expecting it to, because he's like full on like, yeah. So what I thought was kind of cool is like seeing the parallels between this episode and the first Guardians of the
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy, because obviously it's not as like Exhibit A, Exhibit B, the way the first episode was with like Captain
Right.
America, but you can still see like a lot of different like parallels. So one of it being is like, you know, in the Guardians of the Galaxy, you have the family of like Gamora and Peter Quill and Drax and Groot and
Mm-hmm.
Rocket. And this one, it seems like the team, and they don't call themselves the Guardians of the
Right.
Galaxy, they just kind of call
The
themselves the
Ravagers. Mm-hmm.
Ravagers. It's T'Challa, Yondu, Nebula, Thanos, Korath,
Thanos.
Kraglin, and Taserface. Yeah. And one of the funniest things that I found was that Nebula has hair,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, man, you know, Thanos stressed her
Right.
out when you knew she actually was meant to have
Right.
hair, but she just like her follicles just like went away because of all the stress she was going under.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought that was really funny. This one was by far my
And
favorite.
I
My
think there
favorite.
was one more thing that I liked about it was I think it was oh right, so the collector, right? We've known the collector in the cinematic universe to be almost kind of a wimp, like a sneaky. It's like, oh, I'm gonna try to get the Infinity Stones before anybody else type. But here he's jacked. He apparently took out the guy from Thor Ragnarok, the Rock guy, and I was kind of sad
Oh
about that, you know.
no, Korg!
Yeah, he
I
took
know.
Korg's arm,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Damn, how you gonna kill Korg like that?" You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and also, it just seemed like, first off, in Ragnarok, Hela was not easy to beat. Like she was
Oh
almost
no. Yeah.
unbeatable, but somehow the collector quote unquote beat her and has her crown and can manifest the powers that she has, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that yes I liked, but I would almost say it's questionable just from what I saw Hell to be.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's funny how this episode has so many tie-ins to Ragnarok. Like we get Hela, you see Mjolnir. I think it's part of the arsenal of weapons, along with like
Mm-hmm.
Cap's shield that he has collected. You see, what's his name? The Grandmaster's leisure vessel is one of the ships
I missed
that was
that.
collected.
I
Also,
missed that.
yeah, I think it was next to. So you can see one of the what is it called? You see a lot of different ships from a whole different parts of like the universe, and one of them is the leisure vessel from the Grandmaster,
Really?
and of course, and like the Grandmaster is the Collector's brother in the comics,
Really?
so it makes
Oh
yeah,
snap.
so it's kind of cool how because they're connected and they're doing so many different also tie-ins with events of Ragnarok or just things from Ragnarok, it kind of makes you wonder like what happened. Like I'm assuming the events of Ragnarok happened a lot
Right.
earlier, and it seems like Thor maybe is also
Mm-hmm.
dead, right? Korg is dead, Thor is maybe
Mm-hmm.
dead. It seems like Hela's dead, and like he just kind of collect everything from like the ashes of Asgard or
Mm-hmm.
something of the sort. I think that was all of the little pieces that I found in terms of like all of the connections with that. But keep in mind, if you look at Guardians of the
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy, if how many he was already in possession
He had
of
two.
the
Reality.
yeah, at some point he
He
had
had the
two, the
reality
reality
and
and the
yeah, the power
power
stone.
stone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, Hela was very difficult for Loki, Thor, and they're kind of like our army of Asgardians to
Mm-hmm.
beat, and Valkyrie, right? To beat Hela. But I think it could be kind of matched if you're looking at the Collector with the two Infinity Stones, especially now that Thanos is no longer the big bad in this multiverse, to then take on Hela
Well,
and
then with that,
kind
you're
of have
you're
all that all come on.
already assuming that he has stones at all, because right now we haven't seen anything but the Tesseract so far, so we can't assume anything as far as there being the Reality Stone. Because as of right now, I feel like uh, based off of what we saw in episode 3, we're never gonna see the reality be uncovered by I'm just calling her Natalie Portman, because Thor is out of the picture, you know. So
That's assuming that these events all happen in the same multiverse. But I think that's kind of small picture to think it would
mm-hmm.
be, since we're looking at what if possibilities throughout the
Okay.
multiverse. You know what I mean? So the way that it's playing out, because initially I thought maybe kind of like to what you were saying, that it's probably going to be like episode, 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 and then a big tie-in possibly at
Yeah.
the end. I thought that was going to happen. I kind of like the idea of that happening. But just looking on the IMDb and how many times these actors are going to be appearing in films, I mean, in the episodes, most of them are on just the one that they're
Yeah.
in. So I think this is meant to be more of an
Okay.
anthology. So I don't know if like the truths from episode 3 can also be like inferred into like episode 2.
Okay.
I guess as we continue to watch and they kind of explain a little bit more, maybe we can, be able to dissect that a little bit more
Yeah.
accurately. But if we at this point assume it's more like of an
Mm-hmm.
anthology, then we can kind of just say that maybe he does have at least the Power
Mm-hmm.
Stone, and then Thanos being out of the picture, having an Infinity Stone might be enough to take on Hela. Who
Yeah.
knows,
Yeah.
Or he waited for the events of Ragnarok and then let them destroy each other, and then just flew in and then like picked up like the bits and pieces that were left
Yeah.
over.
I gotcha.
Which seems like something slimy that he would do. I feel like that can kind of track with his personality and who he is. So
Well, with that being said, being that Thanos is good now, um, who knows? I could throw out there that he went to, uh, I think it's called Nevedalir or whatnot, and met up with
mhm.
with the trolls there, and maybe had some type of weapon to defeat Hela. You know, so there are so many possibilities that could happen,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that this series is doing. Is just opening up the question of what if. I hate saying
What
that,
if?
but that's what it's doing.
It sounds
You
so
know?
cheesy. Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
is. It is. And something that I think is really cool that they're doing, right? Because What If is based off of a comic book series of the same name, What
Yeah.
If, where it doesn't seem that they're pulling direct storylines from that comic series, more so just the concept and marrying it into the idea of now there's a multiverse, which I think is kind of
Yeah.
cool because we get to see a lot of different things and scenarios that weren't explored in the comics, which is kind of
Yeah.
nice. And it's funny enough because a lot of events from the What If series comic
Mhm.
books actually made its way into the MCU. Like Professor Hulk was a thing in the comic books.
Right.
We're going to see Natalie Portman take on the mantle as Thor. So Jane Foster being Thor, that's also one of the storyline that originated in a What If
Oh,
series,
was
you know.
it?
So it's yeah, so it's really cool to see that they're kind of doing their own thing, but just taking the concept and marrying
Yeah.
it with the idea that they've kind of created at this point. So it does let you just kind of ponder the idea, or just stay on the idea of like what if, and then just to kind of play without having to tie it into anything necessarily. Which is why I think they're probably going to keep it more of an anthology, to kind of keep it true to what the series did versus having like multiple episodes that are actually within the same universe and then tie in at the end. I feel like that just makes more sense with what it seems like they're trying to do with this show.
I like what you're saying simply for the fact that I guess because the What If comic is based off the stories of the comics, to where this is based off the series of movies that are coming out in the
Yes,
MCU. You know,
yeah.
so um, I like it, and I like the idea, and I'm gonna just get straight into it. I like what they did in episode 3, and this I'm gonna say is my favorite, just because it caught me off guard. It was all like they gave us multiple storylines in one episode, which happened around the same time in the MCU, as far as Iron Man 2, Thor, and then them finding Captain America. Like, this was all within a close period of time, you know?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
when it came down to this episode, I didn't, because initially when I looked up the IMDb before, I saw a picture of Loki, so I thought that this was going to be a what if Loki did something different. And just thinking about it, we've already kind of got that in the Loki series, because the different Lokis doing different things, they're all variants, you know what I'm saying? So we don't really need another what if Loki did something different, because they're already dabbing in that in the Loki series. So when watching this, we see Romanoff and Fury in the car, and we didn't know Romanoff was in the car initially in Iron Man 2 when they go to Randy's Donuts, right? And you see Iron Man eating in the donut and just chilling after Rhodey stole his suit of his armor,
Yeah.
right? So they didn't go word for word as far as what the script was before, but we got the general idea of Nick Fury seeing that Iron Man still has the palladium in his chest and is poisoning him to the point to where he's about to die. And he asked Romanoff to shoot him up with whatever thing that's going to slow it down. But from there, he dies. I'm hurt because Iron Man is my guy, okay? I'm upset because they killed off my favorite Avengers at the beginning of this episode, you know? So, man.
See, and we were talking about it yesterday too, before we either of us had seen the episode just yet,
Uh-huh.
right? And you were like, you mentioned something about like, no, you're wrong, Grace. That can't be like the premise of this episode. It just can't, in denial. And then when I saw it, because I saw it last night a little bit later, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh man, you must have been
Well,
hurting. I
the
mean,
way
I
you
got you
stated
the
the way you stated it, you were just like, "Oh, this is where Romanoff kills Tony." I was just like, "What? Like, are they making her out to be an assassin? Because this was accidental, you know?" And when
yeah,
you
yeah.
told me, like, I didn't want to believe you. I was like, "Nah, she can't just kill him,
Impossible.
nah," you know. So, yeah,
See, that's mildly how I felt when Peter Quill is working at a Dairy Queen. I'm like, my
right.
boy, he never finds love. He never finds, because Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that it's funny. You love this episode because Iron Man's in it. I love like episode 2 because it's all about like kind of like the Guardians of the
Yep.
Galaxy or that world. So I think that's kind of a funny little like thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry
it's
for your
fine.
loss.
It's fine. And Tony isn't the main reason why it's my favorite. I feel like, as far as storyline in this 30-minute condensed storyline, it you didn't know who or what was behind it, because like I said, initially I thought it was going to be Loki, and then we see Clint take out Thor, and by accident, but we couldn't tell, so we assumed that it was Clint, but then Clint was taken out. Spoiler alert if y'all haven't seen episode 3. But
What are you doing here?
but
At like minute 65. Spoiler alert.
right. And then from there, we see Black Widow in the library, and she's talking to Fury on the phone and says about Hope. And initially, the name Hope, it flew over my head even before like we got to see who the actual person behind it is. But then I was just like, was Hope Van Dyne the mother or the daughter? And then I was like, wait, no, Hope was the daughter. So maybe it's actually Hope that's the actual Ant-Man that's behind all these killings. So that's where I thought this story was gonna go. So before going further into the episode, I was like, oh shit, maybe Shield killed Hank Pym, and she's just going on a revenge just to kill anything and everything Shield related, you know. So
Yeah.
it had me on the edge of my seat. And yes, I like the first 2 episodes, but this episode I'm just like, yo, what is going on? Who is doing this? All of my theories have been debunked. I don't know what to think right now, you know? So
See, it's so funny. I feel like this speaks to like kind of like our preferences when it comes to like the tone and the feel and the cinematography that we like in
Right.
films. I like the happy, joyful, kind of like silly, like clumsy ones. And then you're like, I feel anxiety and I like it. 'Cause that's what this film gave me. This episode gave me. I'm like, where are they all dying? And so I was watching it and I was like upset. I'm like, I don't like this, right? Because this is so early on in terms of like what we know to be the events of like that sparked, a precursor to, all the other things that we've seen, right? Infinity War, Endgame, all of that. So to know that this never happened almost destroyed everything I know to be in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I don't like it. But then I did like how they ended it, because it kind of ended it on a note of hope. Like, okay, the Avenger initiative is going to end up becoming something, but now it's going to be something different. Captain Marvel is going to be one of the main players. Captain America is going to be a player in this one still. So it did leave off on like a little sense of hope, which I appreciate, because I was just like hurting. I was hurting so hard when I was watching this one.
So I think one of the many things that I really enjoyed about this was the Hulk scene. And when it came to the Hulk scene, they subbed out Edward Norton and put Mark Ruffalo in there. And from there, when he became Hulk, it was almost the same exact shots that you saw in the Hulk movie. And I peeped that. If y'all saw the library scene or the school scene where it was eventually the super soldier guy taking his first shot at the Hulk, it was almost scene for scene as far as how the Hulk jumped from that bridge and started fighting the army. And that's one thing I really appreciated. And when it comes down to defeating the Hulk, right, you can't really break the skin from the outside. And you gotta go from the inside out. And when he got shot, of course I'm thinking it's just like, oh, he got shot, he'll heal, he'll be fine. But in actuality, that was the silver bullet, that just killed him. And I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh shit, now everybody's dead, So
well, I'm gonna, right now that you were talking about like the skin, you're like, oh, you can't go from the outside, you gotta go from the inside. I'm thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when that's the same logic that Drax like takes on in like the initial fight.
Oh, right,
where he's
right.
just like, I'm gonna cut it from the inside, and everyone's telling him like it's the same thickness from the inside as it is from the outside. And so, but obviously like the logic and like I guess like the physiology is a little different when you're looking at the Hulk versus like some other space thing. But I was just kind of drawing back to that. No, I hadn't seen Hulk in a long time, but even with the few times that I've seen it, even like so long ago, it was something that was very recognizable and very like you can draw the
Yeah.
lines, and I thought that was really cool just because honestly in my heart I don't really hold like the Hulk film to be part of the
Mm-hmm.
MCU because it just doesn't link up with the
Mm-hmm.
cinematography. Like it just doesn't look like an MCU film, and I think it's kind of forgotten. Obviously a big part of it is that they have different actors for Bruce Banner, and I think that's like the main
Right.
core of why I don't feel like it's a part
Right.
of it. But I thought it was really nice that this kind of did marry it into the MCU timeline, and I liked it. I did enjoy that little that the parallels
Yeah.
between that. That was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Um, was there anything else? Oh, the the what did Hank Pym call him? He's like, oh, you look awfully spry, like just moving so fast. Like when he was talking to Nick Fury and seeing Nick Fury do all these backflips before he even revealed who it was.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah. I know what
like,
you're talking
that's
about.
that's not him because Nick Fury right now in this timeline may be 70 years old. Okay, so he's not doing
No, see,
backflips like
I
that, you
had
know?
a I had a similar feeling, like almost laughable when I saw that, because in my head I was just trying to think of Samuel L. Jackson trying to do these
Right.
things, and it made me laugh,
Mm-hmm.
like to think of him like doing all these flips. So that was the first like alarm that it's probably not
Right.
him. And then obviously he had spoken to Loki right before, and we know obviously one of Loki's powers is to be able to kind of like change his
Right.
appearance. So it was like, ah, okay, I see what happened
Mm-hmm.
here. But back to the idea that you have, that having seen some of the promo for this episode and seeing a lot of things with Loki, and you initially assuming that maybe it was going to be like oh, what if Loki did something different, it kind of ended up being a little bit of that
Yeah.
too, because right, this episode essentially was like, okay, what if Loki actually ended up taking over the earth, and that's what ended up
Oh,
happening in
right.
this
That did.
episode.
Like I was thinking about
Yeah,
everything
so
else,
in
but
a
yeah.
way, yeah, in a way it kind of did like tie in that idea that you initially had when you saw the promo for this stuff. So but I do like that it was more of a B storyline versus the main front, since we've gotten a chance to play with a lot of different Loki
Yeah.
variants due to the series. We didn't really need to see all this other stuff with Loki, but it was kind of cool to see it on like the back end of the
With
episode
that
too.
being said, the only question I have would be more so why, like why he felt the need to do that, being that at this point, Thor's dead, so I would assume that he's next in line to be king of Asgard. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
no, maybe so.
I guess this episode kind of married the events from Thor, right? Where he puts the All Father in a sleep, and then he tries to get like a frost giant to go in and kill him so that he can then like take on the throne and
True.
everything. And also the events of
Mm-hmm.
Avengers, where he's trying to take over like the Earth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think it kind of married those two objectives, and I think those objectives were kind of like fast tracked with the fact that Thor was dead and out of the picture. Because right, we're still looking at a less progressed Loki, who's still fresh out of this issue of like, oh, I'm a frost giant, the thing I was like taught to hate most of all. My father is an ass. Like I don't know anything. So I feel like it meshed well, but it kind of hurt me to see like that regressed version of Loki after having seen already Loki, kind of healed from all that trauma. So I think they just married the two objectives, like the objectives that Loki had in Thor and the objectives he had in Avengers. So that's kind of what it read
What
to me.
sent? This is a little off topic, but what sent Odin into that sleep?
I believe what kind of sent him into the sleep was when Loki was confronting him about basically his parentage, and you know, Odin is saying like, "Oh, you are my son," and he's just like, "I am not your son." And then I think just from like that conflict and that confrontation, he went into like I forget what they call it, like the Odin sleep. The there's a specific term where he sleeps for a long time, but they don't know how long it's going to
Right.
be. So I think it was just like stress induced sleep
Okay.
coma. And yeah, so I think that's what if I'm remembering correctly, I think that's what
Yeah,
initiated
the
it.
heart
And
attack.
that's where Loki then kind of took
Little baby
advantage.
godlike heart attack. He was just like,
Oh,
oh, I can't take
yeah.
this, and ended up passing out. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Man, if only we could all just take long naps when bad things
Yep.
happen and just be like, no, 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 this is just what I
Right.
do. Leave me
Right.
alone.
But I believe that's everything I got. We chatted it up about pretty much everything in episode 3, and yeah, I think I have everything. Do you have anything else on?
No, I think we went through absolutely everything. We kind of hit a lot today. Spider-Man, the
Yeah.
trailer, what if, what episodes 1 through 3. Next time we come back, well, next week, Shang-Chi is coming
Oh
out. So then that following episode is when we're gonna dive
yeah.
into Shang-Chi.
Oh man, but
So that's
see,
gonna be a lot of fun.
that's the thing. Grace, I'm just gonna say it right here on the stream because we got a lot of stuff coming out. Because say right now, next episode we're gonna recap Shang-Chi, and I'm already geeked to see it. But then from there, because episode 4, episode 5, oh, then it'll be another 3 episodes, I guess. Then that we're gonna be recapping the not this next episode, but the one after that. Right? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I guess we can map out the how we want to like break it
Yeah.
down, and then we'll keep you guys informed. But for sure, Shang-Chi is going to be the next topic
Oh,
we hit.
definitely.
So make sure to watch it because it comes out next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited. I love Aquafina, so I'm really excited to see her
Oh,
in
for
this.
sure. And
Yeah,
lastly, actually, I do have one more point. If you have like maybe 5 minutes, do you have 5 minutes?
let's do
Okay,
it.
so um, since the last time we spoke on here, the quote unquote final trailer of the Eternals came out. So, um, in that, I saw something familiar and I wanted to ask you about it. And I may have asked you about it before, but I'm curious just to see because initially someone was talking to one of them and they were asking why they didn't interfere when Thanos snapped away half of the universe,
Hmm.
right? And then
Yes.
the trailer it cuts to a character that I feel I saw in Guardians when they were talking about the Power Stone in Guardians. When the Collector was talking about the Power Stone in Guardians, there was somebody that he did like a flashback to a huge giant that was carrying the Power Stone, and I feel like that is the same character they're referencing. Uh, do you have, or did you see, or did you make that connection?
Yes, I actually have. I can like literally visualize it in my brain. I have like notes on the trailer because naturally that's just what I do when these things come out. Is I just take a lot of notes. If I'm remembering just off the top of my head, I believe it's supposed to be a celestial. I think they're referring to a celestial. We see it come out. We see them come in Guardian Galaxies when they're referring to the Power Stone and previous people that held the
Mm-hmm.
Power Stone. We've heard the word celestial be thrown around because Ego, right?
Right.
Quill's
Mm-hmm.
father is a celestial as well, but I think he's meant to kind of be categorized as something a little bit
Right.
different. So I want to say celestial. So because I think the way it goes that is that celestials created um, humans, uh, Eternals, and then that last thing that was mentioned in the trailer, basically the creature that they were
Right.
told they can only be involved in if those creatures came out. I can't
Right.
remember that off the top of my head. Deviants?
Mm-hmm.
Deviants. There we go. Deviants. So if I'm remembering it correctly, I believe Celestials created Deviants, humans, and the Eternals, and they each kind of have to play a role, and there's like a certain like balance
Mm-hmm.
between them. So yeah, if those are I think those are the ones you're referring
No,
to.
but what I'm saying is like there is like a picture of the celestial and it looks just like the celestial that held the power stone, and I was wondering if this celestial had a name, if you actually know who it is.
He does.
Oh.
He does, and I cannot remember. I literally have it written somewhere. So yes, there are like a lot of there are celestials that you see come around the comics kind of frequently, and there's enough that you kind of know their
Mm-hmm.
names. The one that this one seems to be like
Mm-hmm.
emulating, it's a specific person. It's a specific one, but I just can't remember
Right.
the name. I think I'll post it on my Instagram for you guys
Do
once I find
it.
it, just so I can give you guys the
Tag me.
answer. Yeah, and I'll tag you for sure. But I have it somewhere. I know I have it
Yeah.
somewhere because I was literally doing a deep dive on the trailer because I was like, oh, we'll probably talk about it today, but then Spider-Man came out, and you know
Yeah.
me, so my mind like, woo, like wiped it
Yeah.
out of off the radar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious just
Okay.
because, yeah, it looked to be like they were wearing the same armor, so I was just assuming that it was the same person that I saw in that Guardians flashback. So, all in all, I wanted to just quickly ask you that before we end, another episode of the comic cinematic universe.
Absolutely. And I'll be sure to post that information for you guys on my Instagram. You guys can find me on Mighty Grace _ fit. So you guys can find that there.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my
Yeah,
stories.
and if y'all have a hard time spelling it out, you can see it right under her image right here, under her video. And yeah, hit her up. If you have any questions comic related or comic movie related, either shoot it her way or my way. I'd be happy to answer. You can find me again at Chill from VA. And yeah, I think that's all we got for y'all today. Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. Again, not next week, but the week after, we'll be back 3:30. Tune in, and yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Grace, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. See you guys. Do not break the Iron Man.
Oh no! Yeah.
If you guys missed it, he like almost broke it as he was.
I was trying to pick it up, but I didn't realize how loose it was just for a second. But I promise it's gonna be in a safe place. I got a shelf. It was on a shelf in my living room. I just wanted to bring it to my desk just to show people. So it is safely. It has a place, Grace. Okay, a safe place on a shelf. With some movies, okay, with my Marvel movies.
I'll
okay?
believe you, and I'll make sure to tag where I got that piece from in case you guys are looking to get something similar.
I'm afraid to pick it up just to show y'all again.
Find
so
my story as well.
If y'all can see it here, boom.
Yeah, I'm like, don't touch it. All right. All right, Chill. This was awesome.